It's another Decades Artist Spotlight, and tonight, Halloween, for our Halloween show, or our post-Halloween show anyway, we have a special guest. He was Job in Children of the Corn, Patrick in the Monster Squad. We welcome Mr. Rob Kiger to the studio tonight. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, thanks, Joey. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate this. This is fun.
So
it's going to be great.
Let's dig into this. Before we get into the movies, we're talking about, Children of the Corn, the Monster Squad. How did you get into this at such a young age? Because when I look at your filmography, you were like 6, 7 years old when you first started.
So my father was always doing, he did Barney Miller. He was the editor of that. He did a lot of videos, a lot of the first videos on MTV. I remember an Earth, Wind, and Fire video.
Right.
So I was just the cute kid on set, so I luckily got into the business that way.
You got in young. You did the voice of one of the Little Rascals as your first gig, from what I read.
Yeah, that was my first gig. I was dopey. I was
Porky.
Corky? Yeah, I was Porky. I had like 2 lines. But it was great. It was cool being in the studio like that. It was really fun.
So you had a bunch of I see you were at a lot of TV stuff you did up until 1984 when Children of the Corn came out. And how did it come about that you got this part in Children of the Corn, which turned out to be not only a successful movie but a cult classic? So how did that all come about for you?
You know what's funny? That was the one time my mom got mad at me for an audition. Because I would go into these places and nail it. I would just ask them, tell me about your movie, and then I would listen to them for a while, and then I would do pretty good on the lines. But Children of the Corn, I was so distracted by baseball cards that I kept asking the guy, so you could just go into the 7-Eleven and all the stores, you know what I mean, and get it free because there's no adults. And I kept referring him back to the baseball stuff that I was really into at the time. And I actually they called me back in for a second chance at it because they knew that I had the right look and I had the right whatever it was for the role, but I just was a little distracted at that point.
And you and the girl that was in that, I'm trying to think of her
Anne-Marie McAvoy.
Yeah, Sarah, you guys had a good chemistry. I mean, the 2 little kids, it was creepy right from the beginning because, here they are going into this town and you think, okay, you see people get killed already. They're taking over the town. And then it flips to these 2 innocent kids playing board games and listening to records.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Anne-Marie was great. It was great filming. It was a fun month in Iowa. They're all, friends of mine. I wish I stayed in contact, but I did see Linda Hamilton at a convention a couple of years ago. Yeah, she's great, though. She's beautiful back then. I mean, she's still a pretty lady, but she was absolutely beautiful back then.
And she went on to big things. I mean, the Terminator and everything else. She's always played the tough girl role in all of her movies, it seems.
She is great. And so is Peter Horton and Frick, the director. I mean, everybody was great on that. I had a call early when we were doing a screen run, going over the script with the whole cast, that Stephen King came in. And he was there for about 10 minutes. I got to shake his hand and look him in the eye for a minute. Very briefly and kind of. But he was a great guy. He was already a well-known novelist, but he hadn't blown up like he has now. But it was kind of an eerie thing. He just came in and shook everybody's hand and walked out of the room.
And Stephen, from what I read about Stephen King, think about Stephen King. If you love his books, the movies don't always coincide. And it was the same with Children of the Corn. If you read the book Children of the Corn, if you see the remake in 2009, it was much closer to the book than the actual 1984 movie. But Stephen King it's interesting because Stephen King just filed some kind of court thing that he took back the rights to a bunch of his movies, including Cujo, The Dead Zone, Creepshow, Cat's Eye, Firestarter, and Children of the Corn. So now he has taken the U.S. rights back to those films. So now everybody...
I didn't know that.
That just came into effect in September. Somebody was actually making a remake of Cujo, and they can't do it in the States now because he has taken the... He's always been a little odd with his movies.
Yeah, but he's always been a little genius. You know what I mean? A big genius.
Oh, yeah. The stuff he writes is incredible. And Children of the Corn was... I was 12 when Children of the Corn came out. I was already into the horror movies. And when I saw this movie, we snuck into this movie to see it in these theaters. And talk about the part of Job, because what did they tell you they wanted? Because you obviously were portrayed as a good guy, because you were The two of you didn't go into the cornfield and get possessed by who walked behind the corn.
Yeah. Well, that's how I tell people, I was the narrator. I kind of gave the backstory at the start of the film. But I tell people, how all the kids in the movie were bad guys and killed everybody? Well, I was a good guy. I had the sister, you know what I mean? That's how I described it. They're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And then they remember. But I don't think Joe was even in the book. I think there was a reference to a Joe in the book, but he wasn't a character that, was portrayed like it was in the OG Children of the Corn movie, like you said.
Yeah, I have to correct myself too, because of Children of the Corn people. There's some rabid fans, and it's he who walks behind the rose, which always freaked me out.
Yeah, well,
that was the big boogeyman.
When we were filming that in Salix, I believe, or Gatlin, Iowa, or right on the border of Nebraska, the scene where I chased down the Molotov cocktail, I swear there was 200 people behind the camera. Fire departments, police, everybody, and it was just basically a hole in the ground, like a big like a rake, so it was really I felt the pressure because there were so many people watching me, and I had to run over and grab the Molotov cocktail, which was lit. I mean, it was real, and run back, to Peter Horton and tell him to throw it right this time, and he did.
How many takes did it take? Was it just one take?
No, yeah, you couldn't mess that up because you're digging a big hole in the ground. You know what I mean? A big mole in the ground. So there was one chance at it. And like I said, there was 200 people, 400 eyes looking at me on that scene. So it was really kind of exciting because the weather was going, the wind,
right
at night and everything. It was great. It was great.
So were Malachi and Isaac as creepy in person as they were in the show?
No, Courtney Gaines was the coolest guy. He went on to do Colors and
right.
Other films. He was great. I think John Hamilton is his name. He graduated from UCLA by 20.
Wow.
My mom loved him. You know what I mean? He came and hung out in our dressing room every day. He was incredible. I wasn't scared of those guys at all. You know what I mean? They were great. Everybody was great, but John was especially great. I remember that.
And, when you look at Children of the Corn isn't just something that came out, they did one movie and it was over. What are your thoughts on all the movies they've done? Because the second movie was had something to do with the first movie, but now there's been 10 movies. And out of those 10 movies, one was the remake for the Sci-Fi Channel, and they started to get away from the actual story. So what are your thoughts on the other movies that have been made? I mean,
well, it launched a lot of careers. Elizabeth Hurley. I mean, I don't know the names of all of them, and honestly, I've only seen mine. I've only seen the first one, which is crazy. But a funny story is, I auditioned for maybe number 3 or 4. I don't know what it was, and I thought I had it locked. I was like, I was Job, and the guy just kind of blew me off. Maybe I didn't read well. I'm not sure. But I auditioned for at least one of them, I think 3 or 4, and I didn't get the role. I was kind of bummed.
Well, so if you're wondering, by the way, just for our listeners, it was Children of the Corn. In 1992, they put out, this is like 8 years later, they put out Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice.
That must have been the one.
95 was Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest, followed by Children of the Corn 4, The Gathering, Children of the Corn 5, Fields of Terror, Children of the Corn 666, Isaac's Return. Then you had in 2001, you had the reboot of it. And then in 2001, you had Children of the Corn Revelation, then the reboot, then Children of the Corn Genesis. And this year, just earlier this year, back in March, they put out Children of the Corn Runaway.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, that's a series, all right.
I mean, it really is amazing. And they've had quite a run on these, and most of them have been direct to video. But it's the only thing I wish is that I wish they would have kept with the story of Children of the Corn and maybe even made a prequel to it as to what led up to these kids going crazy and killing all their parents, to see the actual backstory of it.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I agree.
But now they were talking about doing a remake, but of course that's all put a kibosh on now that Stephen King wants to get involved with the movie. I mean, maybe he'll make a different version of it. Who knows? But
maybe he'll that'd be great. I've been out of the business for 30 years. I'd love to.
Make sure you answer the phone, because if Stephen King calls and says, "Hey, Job, we want you to come and play an adult version,"
I'll be there in 5 seconds. That'd be fantastic.
All right. Now, the other one we want, Children of the Corn, obviously, one of the greatest movies in the 80s, one of my favorite horror movies. But there was another movie you were in, and we cannot forget about that. You did other stuff, obviously. I was talking to you the other day when we were setting up the interview. Crazy Like a Fox was a TV show that was on for a couple of years, which you had. You had that. You had steady work for 3 years on that show, plus a movie. They did a TV movie. And then came The Monster Squad, which I watched it again the other day. I have it on DVD. I haven't watched it in a while, but I watched it again, and it's a cult classic. I mean, it's kind of like a Children of the Corn, where although it didn't make nearly as much money, people at first, were panning it, but now when you talk about The Monster Squad, people love it. It's become another cult classic that you're in.
That was a great one. That was really fun to do. Had a young group of kids with me, and we all became really close. Ryan, Andre, and Brent, and that was a movie that kind of culminated my career. I didn't know it at the time, but that was like the highest of the highs that I got, because it was just cool filming on the Warner Brothers set, and I remember that Alyssa Milano, from Who's the Boss, and Kurt Cameron from Growing Pains would come over and watch some of the scenes we were filming, and especially the final scene where we're in the quad, fighting the monsters. Right,
and you also had was it Jason Hervey, Jason Hervey that was in the guy from the Wonder Years? He was in that.
Yeah, he was in it too. He had a small movie, but he's a great guy. There was a couple other stars that were in it, but it grossed like $2 million. I mean, I couldn't believe how bad it did. You know what I mean? And they had a big party at the Planet Hollywood. They just didn't market it right, because it was a good movie. It brought back Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy. These iconic characters that weren't in movies for about a decade before that. There wasn't much movies or anything about them, and they brought it back.
The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I can't remember the last time I've seen The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And when I was watching the movie the other night, there he is, and he's the guy at the end where they're in the store and they lock the one guy, lock the one kid out, and he kills him, he shoots him there. And and you watch the Monster Squad now. There's a lot of things you'd get away with in the 1980s that if you made that same movie today, people would be up in arms.
I know, I agree. It was really cool. I remember the Mummy. He was a really cool guy. Tom Noonan, who played Frankenstein, was a character actress. What's it called? Where they want to stay in their roles, and he wouldn't meet us besides when he was Frankenstein. You know what I mean? He was very serious about this. Even at the premiere, he didn't really hang out with us. It was weird, but he was very into his role.
And a lot of people say the problem with it was, and this is just stuff you read, is that the Goonies came out 2 years earlier than this, and when they were first casting the Monster Squad, it's in the different, all the different extended versions of the DVD, they were saying that originally they wanted to have Corey Feldman and Corey Haim involved, and that didn't happen. But the Monster Squad was compared to the Goonies, and it was quite like a Goonies thing, but. Like you said, you had Dracula, you had the werewolf, you had the mummy, you had the Creature from the Black Lagoon, you had all these great characters from the 50s and 60s and 70s all together in one big movie, and then you had a bunch of teenagers fighting them. And
I know, it was incredible. And the side story about the Goonies is he was thrown in the same lot that Crazy Like a Fox was.
Right.
And so my mom's best friend was Adrienne Later. She was the school teacher for all the kids on Goonies. So one day, Mom at lunch said, "Hey, Rob, we're going over to stage 22, which is huge stage in the middle of Warner Brothers set. Which is a bunch of stages, but it's a huge one." And I saw the pirate ship. I saw the water slide descending from the top right corner of the stage. It was huge. I didn't get to go on any of it. I was so jealous. The big lagoon right there, it was all there. I walked on the pirate ship. I was so jealous of them filming that movie. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, and I got to see it. And Jeff Cohen, who was Fat Kid, Chunk, he actually starred in a TV pilot with me called Little Shots, which was Ron Howard's directorial debut after leaving Happy Days. And Anson Williams was involved.
Potsy.
And it was great to do. Yeah, so they were friends, and it's actually another story. But so we just knew each other. So I went over the set of Goonies about 6 times and was just so jealous. You know what I mean? And that stage 22 is amazing because they still have a tank there. And they did what was the George Clooney movie with the boat that goes down? Mark Wahlberg.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
Yeah, it's all right. That movie was filmed there. Anything that has crazy ocean stuff, it's usually filmed at stage 22 at Warner Brothers.
I mean, the crazy thing is it's only 1988 here. You did another movie after that, but then you dropped out of sight. Why did you decide to? Did parts just dry up, or why did you decide that you weren't?
I never had a problem getting roles, and what I had a problem with was going around LA every day after school or sometimes missing school and interviewing for these roles.
Yeah.
So at some point, I just said, I don't want to do it anymore. And I told my mom that, and it was a decision that I regret heavily. But at the time, I wanted to be a normal kid. I wanted some normal friends. I wanted to go and play sports. You know what I mean? I wanted to have friends that weren't just for a month on a movie set. So it was a decision that I made. I look back, I kind of regret it now. I could be a big star, but at the same time, I do fun things like I'm doing with you right now. I live a normal life as an insurance rep, salesman, but I wouldn't take it back for anything. It was a great childhood.
Now you said you have kids. So what do your kids think of? Have they ever seen Monster Squad or Children of the Corn?
Well, they're 4 and 7 now.
Oh, so not yet.
They're a little
Okay.
young. Yeah, but they just arrived and they're all decked out in their Halloween costumes.
See, my kids are. I have a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old. So we're beyond the whole Halloween. I said to my wife tonight. I said it's we miss. We were all alone tonight, and I said, do you miss not having kids to dress up and to be taking out on Halloween and everything? Because it goes by so quick. Before you know it, they're not doing it anymore, and you look back and say, God, where did all that time go? Because it goes so quick. It really does.
Yeah, it really does. And it had its perks. I traveled the world. I made a lot of money. I met some famous people. And I was treated like royalty as a kid. You know what I mean? So that led to some problems being an adult.
Let me ask.
Not having the word no, be told you much as the breadwinner for the family at 7 years old.
Yeah.
And there's some other problems that, I encountered since I've been an adult, but I'm overcoming them, But I just love the fact that I can always go back to videos of myself and see what I used to be, doing.
Well, let me ask you one more question before you go out Halloween and for the night. Which one did you like better, Children of the Corn or the Monster Squad? Which one do you look back on and say, man, that was fun?
As far as movies that I did,
yes,
I think Children of the Corn was the best one. It was the funnest to do. Iowa was great. I wouldn't take it back because I'm doing a live radio.
Well, we're going.
Okay. So.
Hey, I know what it's like. I know you got to go. It's Halloween.
I got to go. She's Wonder Woman. But I thank you for your time, Joey.
Hey, Rob Kiger here on a Decades Artist Spotlight. Rob, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Okay, thank you, Joey.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye.